Two records, 1,000 miles apart, yet dated the very same day. One was written in the land of Shu by a stargazer who told fortunes for a living, a routine note about the sky. On a certain year, month, and day, a star that had no business being there broke into the lodge of the Oxherd. The ancients had a name for stars that sat nowhere on the old charts: the guest star, an omen of the highest order. The other record was the mad tale of a man just back from the sea, told to anyone who would listen. He said he had ridden a wooden raft, drifting on and on with the current, drifting clean out of the human world and into the river in the sky. No one believed him until someone set the dates of those two records side by side. A perfect match. To the very day. This is not a tale I made up. It stands in black and white, 1,700 years old, in Zhang Bowuzhi, the records of diverse matters of the Western Jing. The story begins with a rumor older still. The river of heaven meets the sea. The ancients held that the Milky Way spanning the night sky and the ocean here below were one connected body of water, a single stream. It sounds like a fever dream today, but think one layer deeper. Look up, a river. Look down, a sea. The moon waxes and wanes, the tide rises and falls, both breathing with the same moon. So they dared to call sky and sea one. That is, not ignorance. That is an intuition so old it borders on the divine. The water at your feet and the sea of stars overhead are the same ocean, and oceans can be sailed. And one man took the rumor at its word. He lived on a tiny islet out at sea. Every year, in the 8th month, a raft would appear on the water, arriving on time, leaving on time, punctual as a kept appointment. A raft, unmanned, just timber on the water. But it kept its dates too precise for driftwood at the mercy of the waves, more like something running an invisible track, a scheduled ferry timed to the minute. His neighbors had long stopped wondering, but he began to nurse a thought no one else dared to think. On the raft he raised a small cabin, sealed overhead, and stocked it with provisions and fresh water. And that year, in the 8th month, he went wherever the raft was going. Look at what he actually did. Build a sealed cabin, stockpile water and food, time the launch window. 1,800 years ago, a man of the seashore, on raw nerve alone, clumsily pieced together the prototype of a crude voyage. What if? What if where he was headed was no sea of this world at all? First dozen days were ordinary enough. He could still see the familiar stars, the familiar moon, the familiar sun rising in the east and setting in the west. And by them, he still knew what night it was. But further out, the record says, all grew vast and blurred, and he no longer knew day from night. Sun and moon lost their bearings. He could no longer tell daylight from dark. Stay on that sentence a moment. Why would a man lose day and night? Where do day and night even come from? They come from the planet under your feet, turning, swinging us now toward the sun, now into shadow. Day and night are the pulse of the earth. And once you are far enough that its turning can no longer carry you, day and night go out together. He no longer knew day from night ridden so lightly, but what it describes is a man, for the first time, leaving the entire earth behind. He wasn't lost. He had stepped out the door, out of this house of ours called Earth. 10 odd days further on, the raft lurched and moored. Before him, city walls, houses, orderly, imposing. This was no wilderness. In the city, seen from afar, women sat weaving at their looms. At the water's edge, a man was leading an ox, bending down to water it. A weaver, an oxherd. We know those two names all too well, but have you ever wondered why, of all things, a weaver and an oxherd? Picture it, a place farther than imagination, with busy inhabitants and trades you could almost recognize, and an ancient man fresh from crossing 100 million miles, utterly out of words, back on the ground, rummaging through his own farm life for vocabulary, naming the citizens of that alien city with the only names he knew: women who weave, a man who leads an ox. Those two starnames above us, the most romantic in our sky. What if they began as a returning traveler's stammering observation report? The oxherd was plainly startled by this uninvited guest. The words escaped him.
How did you come to be here?
Listen to that. Even the locals found it unthinkable that anyone could arrive from the direction he had come. The seafarer explained himself, then asked where he was. The man gave no straight answer, only a strange instruction.
Go back. In the land of Shu, find a man named Junping. He will tell you where you have been.
But the line you cannot look away from is what comes next. He never went ashore, and he returned exactly on schedule. He had drifted to the very gates of the city of his dreams, and never set one foot upon its soil. He rode the same route, the same timetable, all the way back. Why not go ashore? Did he not dare? Was he not able? Or was the raft itself a round trip that brooked no delay? A service that must turn back on the dot, with no getting off mid-route? The final nail comes down only after he returns to Shu. As instructed, he sought out Junping, a real documented recluse of Western Han Chengdu who cast fortunes for a living, not a fictional man. Junping counted on his fingers and spoke the line that jolts the whole story.
In that year, that month, on that day, a guest star trespassed upon the lodge of the oxherd.
Count back the year and the month. That day was the very same day the seafarer reached the river of heaven. Now join the two ends, a man up in the heavens, moors beside a city. At that same moment, down on earth, a stargazer sees, right beside the oxherd star, a star that appears out of nowhere and vanishes as fast. Guest stars to the ancients were bodies that flared up and soon slipped away. Later ages would learn they include novae and comets. But this one appeared at a bearing and at an hour that locked tooth and groove onto the voyage of a living man. That faint light Junping wrote into his divination. What if it was never a star at all, but a crude raft skimming past the oxherd and turning for home, caught by watchers on the ground for one instant, a single glint of reflected light? Here's the beauty of it, that the ancients logged the sky's anomalies as a guest star trespassing a lodge. That much is true, chapter and verse. We need not forge a shred of evidence. We only need a different pair of eyes to reread one old line of divination. An ordinary astronomical record and one man's interstellar homecoming, overlapping in silence at the same coordinates, at the same instant. And there, the story breaks off. Zhang wrote nothing more, not what became of the seafarer, nor whether he ever boarded that raft again. He left behind only two numbers, gazing at each other across 1,000 years. One, the seafarer, counted for himself aboard the raft, 10 odd days out, 10 odd days back. By his own reckoning, the whole journey took little more than a month. The other is the date Junping set down in his divination. But no one can say what those 10 odd days spent in the sea of stars should convert to once he fell back into the human world. A month and a little more, or had the world already moved on? Years, decades, an age. When a man moves fast enough to leave day and night behind, One day aloft, years on the ground. That is an idea only our own age has dared to think, and that one scroll recorded only the star, never the time. The chroniclers wrote everything about the guest star. It's coming and it's going. They left out just one thing. Beside that light sat a guest from the human world, only passing through on his way home.